What's happening, chess fans? Welcome to Net Chess and Chill. Today is episode number 75 of my Rapid Rating Climb series, and we're on a journey to 800 ELO. So, if you guys have noticed, I'm actually talking over the video right now, and that is because I did not have my mic on for the entire video, which is the saddest thing in the entire world. But this is a big moment, and I think that we can all enjoy the fact that I have come this far at the game of chess, and it has been an extraordinary journey for me. I have finally achieved my goal, and this episode is the one. So, with that being said, we have the white pieces, and I start with a London. So we play d4 first. My opponent plays the move d5, and I push my bishop out, typical London stuff, and we are going to go for the move e3 next. This game is not necessarily long by any means, but I think it was a pretty decent victory. So in this position, I just back up my pawn with the move c3. That way, if they do take, I can just retake on. I bring my bishop out, 2-pin their knight is my thought, and I mean, you know, it's not the best move, it's not the worst move. I've been having luck with it here recently, so I also want to move my knight to the f3 square, and I want to move my b knight over to d2 is the goal. So in this position, I'm like, okay, my bishop's being attacked. The best move is queen to b3, actually, defending my bishop and just keeping the tension. But I actually, in this position, am going to decide to take the knight. It's not a bad move or anything. They can recapture with the queen, or they can recapture with the b7 pawn, and they actually choose to mess up their pawn structure, doing that with the b7 pawn. So they come down and take b2, and I'm not too worried about this, but it does start to get worrisome for me here shortly. I just develop my knight naturally, defending my rook with my queen, and he takes the c3 pawn that I was using to defend myself. And in this position, I'm like, alright, this is getting a little sketchy, right? So I'm kind of in a worried state. Everything's defended at the moment, but if he brings some more pieces into the party, it's going to be rough for me. So I'm thinking about moving my knight to the e5 outpost that I love to do in the London. It's giving my queen another alleyway. It's threatening a pawn. You know, we just have things that we're threatening in this position. Now, they've moved their queen a lot, and I have certain ways that I can, you know, make that a rough thing on them. But they have plenty of moves here. I'm not playing perfectly. I actually made a lot of mistakes in this game. We're playing really fast, if you notice. So he defends the pawn on c6 that I'm attacking with his bishop. I mean, it's a decent move. I actually can't rotate this knight in like I'm trying to do because it's pinned to my king, right? So I need to castle, which I do. That's not actually the best move in this position either. The best move is actually, I think, to move my rook over to c1. I believe that's the best move. Castling is not a bad move by any means, but I chose in this position to do that. Now they actually have the opportunity to take on d4, and I need to be careful. So with that being said, I just move my knight out to threaten this pawn is what I'm thinking, but because if I take with the e pawn, he's just going to recapture, and my queen is not involved in defending the pawn. So in that case, I actually move my knight all the way to the f3 square to actually defend the pawn with my queen on excuse me, to attack the pawn on d4. Ooh, excuse me, I actually moved my knight to a different square that I forgot that I did, b3. So this kind of does the same thing. It's defended by a pawn. It also gives me the ability to kind of get my knight up to maybe a square like c5 in the future, if the queen moves. So, and then, sorry, I had some communication issues with the server. So I don't think taking with the pawn is probably the best move. I think in this position, I decide to recapture with the bishop, um, leaving my knight hanging, which is definitely the wrong move. So the reconnect actually let me rethink the move, and now in this position I actually take with the f pawn. So weirdly, a disconnect from the server gave me a little bit of a change of heart that was the correct option, because my knight would have been hanging in otherwise. So they come to attack my knight, which not a terrible move. You know, I'm not too worried about it, other than the fact that, you know, if they take my knight, I take back with the bishop, I'm in trouble, right? Because my bishop would be hanging, so I would need to defend my bishop on e5 if it recaptured. So a move like this actually is a little more proactive. Rook to c1, threatening the queen, because the queen can't take the knight, right? Because that would just hang the queen. I mean, you get a transaction for it, but it wouldn't be worth it by any means. So, in this position, they need to move their queen. And the question is, where should they move it to? They can't go to d4. They definitely can't take my knight. The best square to me, I think, that I saw was, I believe they go to b2. Is the position they choose? Queen to b2. Which is, I mean, it can't be a good move, right? It's just keeping their queen kind of in the way. Okay, excuse me. They go to queen to b4, which is a little bit better move. That way their queen can get out of dodge if need be. I take the bishop on d7 with my knight. This lets the bishops see each other, and is definitely not the best move, because if they just take on my bishop, I take on with the pawn, and then they can't take back the pawn, but it just doesn't seem like the best move. I could also recapture with my rook on the f file, and you'll see. Honestly, they should just take. I think taking the knight would be in their best interest, because I have my bishop defended quite a few times. I have a pawn and I have a rook defending my bishop. So they leave my knight and take the bishop on f4, and I actually recapture on f4 with my rook, and this actually attacks the queen, and now I get to get my knight out of dodge, because the queen needs to move. Now, this is where my opponent has kind of a brain fart, and they actually don't see what I'm talking about, and they take the knight, and so I take the queen. So they weren't paying attention. They thought maybe, they thought maybe I took with a pawn, which I didn't do, right? So, or maybe they thought I don't know. They just not using the full board vision. So, yeah, we're up a queen. This is fantastic now, right? Now let's trade pieces. But they resign, and I actually catch my 800 ELO with this game. So we did all right, but we did not play perfectly. And you're gonna see, like, you know, some of the best moves. Now we'll go over kind of an analysis version of this. This is a little difficult for me to talk over the game after recording, but we just started off with a typical London. I came out and pinned the knight. I took the knight, which is a alright move, but the best move, I think, like we're going to see here, is actually queen to, b3, defending the bishop. So this keeps the pin, keeps the tension, overall the best move, but we did it like this. So I hung my pawn, I hang another pawn, I push my rook up, which is, or my knight up, which castling right now would be the best move. Just immediately get my knight out. Yeah, so we have quite a few inaccuracies in this game, like I said. Me just taking that bishop right away would have been ideal. opening up my bishop, and I have clear vision, right? So that would have been the best move for me. But instead, I kind of do this instead, and we get a weird position where, yeah, me bringing my queen out and pinning this pawn would have been a decent move because they could have chased out my knight, which I still would have taken on the bishop on d7. But yeah, I didn't see anything about this. Also, they could, if they brought their bishop down to d6, I could also retake with my queen if I wanted to and trade the queens off the board. But instead, we come up with this position. That's straight up a blunder because, yeah, their best move was moving their knight out. But it's straight up a blunder because I get this tempo on the queen, and now I take the bishop, which wasn't the best move. It actually wanted me to take the pawn on f7. The king has to take, and then I get these series of checks with my queen, and things get dangerous. I'm not a good enough chess player to see all this stuff, so I didn't play that move. I just took on the bishop. Excuse me. Yeah, I took on the light squared bishop with my knight. They took on the dark squared bishop with their bishop, and I recaptured with the rook, and they just did not see that their queen was hanging the entire time. So resigning at that point was, fair, I suppose, but I think there was still some game left. I'm not that great at chess, right? So, but being up +6 is just substantial. Well, I learned a few things this game. I'm pretty comfortable with the London, but I definitely learned that I have a hole in my defense doing something like taking with my bishop, my light squared bishop like that. So I think in the future I will keep in mind that queen to b3 move. I think that is a fantastic move to defend the bishop in that kind of position. And also just moving my knight out to the e5 outpost immediately is not always the best move. Like, sometimes it's better to kind of just finish development, like castling and everything, and then think about moving my minor pieces for the second time. Overall, decent game. I hope you guys enjoyed the content, and like I always say, please like and subscribe. I'll see you next time.